Hello there, and welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're gonna learn how to make some bread. So it is a perfect time to be making your own bread right now. I hear there's not a lot of bread at the grocery store, but always and in general, making your own bread tastes better. It smells delicious. The entire house, the entire apartment, the entire block that you live on is gonna smell awesome. People are gonna be banging on your door asking for bread, only this time you have a solid excuse to not let them inside. But let's get down to business. The things you're gonna need are a little bit of whole wheat flour and a little bit of bread flour. Now, if you only have the bread flour and you don't have the whole wheat flour, that's fine. If you only have whole wheat flour, you might wanna go out and get some white unbleached or bleached flour as well to mix that in, because just whole wheat flour, very, very dense. So, and then you're gonna need a little bit of salt, honey. You can take or leave this. You don't necessarily need to have that. Yeast, which I'm about to get out of the freezer, and water. And an egg, but the egg you can also use or not use. But anyway, let's get down to business. Okay, so this is the yeast I was talking about. This is instant yeast. You can do a bread recipe with non-instant yeast. I'm not gonna do that. Most people have instant yeast, so we're just gonna go with that. If you have to do the yeast thing separately, I got another video for you, but also most of the steps are the same. Okay, so, all right, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do here, I like to put in just 1/4 cup of the whole wheat flour. Just 1/4 cup of this, not even filled all the way up, just like a pretty close to a full cup, 1/4 cup of wheat flour. Then you get your white flour, unbleached flour, whatever you want to call it, bread flour, some people call it. You take that. Now you're taking out that 1/4 cup again. You get 1 full cup, full 1/4 cup. I gotta keep saying that. So that'd be 1/2 cup of flour in there right now. Add this, a little too much on top. That's another 1/4, so we got 3/4 of a cup. Jeez, I'm a little out of practice with this fucking bag. And then, there you go. That's 1 cup. So 3/4 of a cup white flour right there. And then just a 1/4 cup of wheat flour. Now, forget the wheat flour, forget this whole 1/4 cup thing. You don't need it anymore. Get this 1/4 cup, get it out of your life. Now, you just need your big 1 cup. You stick this in the flour, if you can get it inside there. You're a little bit more dexterous than I am. Take that cup of flour like that, and then just put it right in there. So right now you should have 2 cups of flour in this bowl. Most of it is white flour. I like to put in a 1/4 cup of wheat flour just to add a little bit of heartiness to the bread. Make sure you don't have super, lame bread. So then I like to make this little thing in the bread, as you can see here, in the flour. I got kind of 2 ridges on the side and a ridge in the middle, and that's because I like to keep the ingredients separate until it's time to mix them all together. So the next thing we're gonna do here is a half teaspoon of the yeast. Sorry, I screwed that up. 1.5 teaspoons of the yeast. 1.5 teaspoons. So there you go, there's your 1 teaspoon of yeast. Gonna put that on the right side. Then take the other 1/2 teaspoon of yeast, put that on the right side, right on top of it, right? Then you wanna do your salt, right? So you wanna keep the salt and the yeast. The reason why I made this whole contraption here is keep the salt and the yeast apart from each other as long as possible, because they're the ones that are gonna really activate each other. So then you take your full teaspoon of salt, right? Fill that guy up. I like to do this not over the bowl in case you overfill. You don't want it falling into the bowl, fall on the ground. So, and then you put that right there. Then I like to do not a, like, this is where it's kind of preference. Some people like their bread a little salty, or some people like it a little not salty. I like to do, I feel like 2 teaspoons, 2 tablespoons, yeah, teaspoons, 2 teaspoons, just a little much. So I like to do just like 1 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Get that on the left side. So right now, you got your yeast on your right, salt on your left, right? Then you're gonna take a 1/2 teaspoon of honey. Now, if you don't have honey or sugar, you can skip this step. This step is mostly necessary if you're not using the instant yeast, but I just like it. I just think it adds a little bit of flavor and it helps the yeast activate a little bit. So you take your 1/2 teaspoon, it's a pain in the butt to even get it in this thing, and then it's a pain in the butt to get it out. So you just kind of stick that in that middle crevasse that you made. Just get as much of that honey out of the teaspoon as you can. You're probably not gonna get it all, and that's fine. So then you get your, and the last thing is 1 tablespoon of oil, all right? So I like to use olive oil. I feel like that tastes the best. This comes in very handy in this whole recipe. I forgot to show it to you at the beginning, but you are gonna need olive oil. This is my first cooking video, so you know, we're getting it together. So you take your olive oil, fill that guy up over the sink so you don't spill olive oil all over the floor. Then you take that, you put it right on top of the honey there in that middle part. So now you have everything in here that you need other than the water. You got your yeast, you got your oil, you got your salt, you got a little bit of honey, and all that flour right there. Now it's time to put in the water. Now this is a very difficult sort of thing to get exactly right, but luckily you're using the instant yeast, so you're gonna be fine. Now water temperature is kind of important, kind of not that important. You can't really screw up the whole recipe having the water temperature be wrong, but you don't want it to be too hot. It'll make the bread too hard to work with. It's better for it to be a little too cold than to be too hot. The best way I can describe it is you want to think of it as hot bath water. Not so hot you couldn't get in it. Like, you know, you were making a bath, you're like, oh, it's too hot, I can't even get inside. But also not so cold that it wouldn't be comfortable. So you want like a little bit hot bath water feel, right? Then I have one of these nifty guys here, but you could just use your cup if you want to, and then you fill that up 2 cups. Now that is a little bit more water than some people like to use, but I think it makes the bread taste better. I think it adds airiness to the bread, so I like to use 2 cups. All right, so now, the moment of truth. This is when we pour the water into this flour and ingredients, and this is where you start to see all this stuff you just put in a bowl become bread. This is one of the more fun parts of the process, I think. Now, a lot of people like to use their hands. I don't, not because of what we're going, you know, through right now as a country. I just kind of think it's just too messy to use your hands. It gets all over you. So I like to use a wooden spoon. But, you know, you can use your own judgment. You can use your hands. You can use a whisk. The whisk is going to get really dirty really fast. I tried a bunch of different things, and I ended up just going with the wooden spoon. So what you want to do, put that around. Oh, I'm losing my camera here a little bit. You want to just keep this thing moving. Get that going into a nice battery type of vibe, right? Looks like a batter now, almost like a thick pancake batter, right? Keep that going for a minute or two until that gets really thin. Now this is where if you were gonna add anything like an ingredient, say like nuts or I don't know, poppy seeds, whatever, if you wanted to add something like that, this is the time to add it right now, all right? What I like to add in times like these, I like to put a little on my shirt just to remind myself what I'm doing, you know, just to show the chicks that you know how to bake. And then I like to take an egg, 1 egg. Now some bakers out there are like, don't do this, man. Don't put an egg in there. It's not gonna be as airy. It might make the bread a little denser. But you know what? I like the flavor that the egg adds. It makes the bread taste a little bit more like a pancake, which I don't know if you like pancakes, but I fucking love them. So I like to have my bread taste like a pancake, and I have decided swearing is fine. So we're gonna keep going with that. Get that egg all up in there, spread that thing. I usually get the organic eggs, but you know, you can't be too choosy in 2020 right now. You just gotta go with the flow. Mixing this up, and then get that egg all up in there. Keep it going. The consistency won't change very much with just an egg. There's a big old piece of some kind of egg here. Doesn't want to mix it in. And then, oh, it's already starting to smell good though. I can smell that. So this is where you want to take now your bread flour, your half cup. This is all you're gonna need really for the rest of this now. Take a half cup of flour, add it into here. Now, this is kind of the process that we're gonna be going through here until it's time to knead the bread. So you just keep adding half cups of flour to this until you get the consistency that you like to work with. Now, like I said, I use 2 cups of water. That's a little bit more water. You're gonna need a little bit more flour to kind of meet that halfway. But as you can see now, it's getting thicker. It's getting thicker. It's getting harder to work with. But that's good, that's what you want. Just keep that thing cranking, you know? You're gonna break a little bit of a sweat making bread, man, and that's what you want. It's a workout, it feels good. Kind of go back in your mind. Think about the frontiersmen and the frontiers women. They did all this stuff. They made their bread, they ate it, and they loved it. All right, so it's gonna definitely need another half a cup of flour. I'm making a lot of bread here, so this is probably 2 loaves I'm looking at. But don't worry, it's gonna be easy peasy. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So keep that going. Don't be afraid, make a little mess. You can clean it up later. You got plenty of time these days to clean things up. So at a certain point here, you're gonna see things are sticking to the spoon a little bit. It's getting a little bit more like looking like pizza dough. It's looking like dough you've seen before in your life. And you're thinking, oh my God, this thing pile of junk I just had here a minute ago, starting to look like food. Half cup of flour. I'm like looking forward to eating this already. I can smell the future of how good this bread's gonna taste. All right, so now probably time to put the spoon away and start moving it around with your clean hands. Make sure you get those hands clean. That goes for pre-coronavirus and post-coronavirus. Always want clean hands when you're baking and working with dough, obviously, you know? Make sure you spin this thing around. You don't want to waste too much flour. You're gonna waste flour no matter what you do, but it's just a fact of life, but you don't want to waste too much. Now this is getting pretty good. I don't know if it needs a full half cup of flour, but it definitely needs some more flour because it's still sticking to my fingers. You do not want it to be completely sticking to your fingers. It's a pain in the ass, and it just means the bread doesn't quite have enough flour in it yet. So this is the point where I start not dumping the whole half cup in there. I just put a little bit in, kind kind of knead it inside the bowl still. We're still inside the bowl. Kind of kneading this around, figuring out how much flour it needs. It's looking pretty good right now. You see that? All right, that's ready. It's now getting ready to take out of the bowl, but it's still a little sticky. So put that in there. Flippity floppity, flippity floopity. Keep that, picking up that flour, just a little more. You know, this is the stuff that feels very scary when you're first starting out baking. You're like, you want to be exact. You want to use the exact amount that guys and girls on the internet are telling you to use, and you don't want to screw it up. But that's the fun part of bread, and that's the beauty of bread, is that you can kind of mess with it a little bit here and there. You can make it your own. You can make it every night, and you can change. You know, you can put a little bit more salt one night. You can put the egg in one night, not put the egg in. And just kind of experiment with it and see what you like. Just kind of experiment with it and see what you like. All right, so let me pause this for a second. All right, so this is what you want your dough to look like. You know, something like this in the bowl, right? Now you take a little bit of flour, put it on the surface you're gonna work with. Take that guy, put it right there. All right, this is the part. You're gonna wanna be doing this for about 10 minutes, all right? Most people, they don't do this long enough, all right? Kneading bread is the fun part, okay? But it takes time. So everyone has their own technique. You can figure out yours. What I like to do is kind of just fold it, knead it, fold it, knead it, all right? I'm gonna switch over to time lapse for this part of it, but you wanna look at the clock. You wanna set that thing for, let's say 13 minutes, because you're a beginner. Set that to 13 minutes, continually putting flour on the surface. If it's sticking to it, not too much, you don't wanna over flour it. Just make sure you're putting enough on there to keep it from sticking to your fingers and sticking to the surface. All right, look at that. That's what your dough should look like. A nice kind of ball right there. One of the ways you can kind of tell is you want to stretch it out, see if it gets thin. Let's see, that's even a little on the rougher side, but it's kind of how I like it. I like it a little thicker, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, keep it like that. And now, that's a good piece of dough right there. Feels good to you. That means the hard work is now over. So, little trick here, you take your other bowl, all right? Take this guy right here, put a little bit, just a little bit of oil in the bottom. Then you wanna take a paper towel, sort of rub the oil evenly all around the bowl, like that. That's my lovely girlfriend mocking me with her eyes as she walks by. And then take your dough, bottom side in, put it in there, swoosh it around in there, get all that oil up on it, flip it upside down, that oil all over it again, and then you just put it down. Take your towel, tea towel if you have one, dish towel, saran wrap also works. Cover this like that, right? And then you're gonna leave it alone for 40 minutes. Just walk away for 40 minutes. Okay, so this part's very easy. It's been 40 minutes. Your dough should have risen a little bit. You look at that, it's like twice the size. Now you take your fist and you punch it, all right? Punch that down like that, the whole thing. Punch it nice down a little bit, kind of look like that. See? Put that, why not a couple more for fun? You put that back on top and wait another 40 minutes. 40 more minutes. All right, so we are almost done. It's time to now take off the tea towel. Look at that big beast of a boy right there. Started off with just some flour, and now we have this. Oh, doesn't even come right out. Pull that out. This is what my man Paul Hollywood calls the knocking backstage. All right, so you're not fully kneading this like you were before. You just kind of want to knock all that air back out of it that you just let kind of raise into it. Now you don't want to make it too, you don't want to over knead it again too much, because then it's just going to be like you never proved it at all. But you want to knock some air out of this thing, get it into the shape of a loaf of bread. All right, this is where you start shaping the bread. Now this is up to you. You can do this however you want. You can cut this into a bunch of different pieces and make 2 loaves of bread. You could cut this into 5 rolls, or you can do whatever you want with this part of it. Now it's your time to just be creative and feel how you feel. I today am just gonna do a loaf of bread. Nice, easy loaf that you can make yourself at home. So here's how it's done. It's very easy. You just kind of flatten the bread out like that. Flatten that dough out like so. Roll it into itself a little bit. Try not to let any air stay in there. You just roll that thing into kind of a tube loafy type shape, a bloomer type shape, as they say in England. All right, you want to try and get that as much air out of it as possible. You don't want air bubbles messing up the way your bread looks and everything like that. You want it to be nice and clean looking, but really it doesn't have to be pretty to taste good. So even if you don't do this part right, it doesn't really matter. This is the kind of thing that you kind of hone a little bit. Overdoing it multiple times, but it doesn't really matter. See, I'm talking about how I'm honing it. I just really didn't do that great of a job right there myself. So smooth it out. Sometimes okay, just a little bit of flour. Get that guy into the shape that you want to cook. Right, there's a big air bubble right there. I want to get that out. Made a little fart sound. All right, it's already smelling good. I like to kind of get the seams closed up if I can, and just roll that bitch. Roll it. Now it's in a nice shape of a bloomery loaf of bread right there, okay? So now you're taking your cooking pan, your cookie pan, whatever pan you're gonna make this on, transfer the bread you're gonna make to the cooking pan. Right on there. I like to use parchment paper. I feel like that's the greatest way to do it. I think you can also use aluminum foil, but I've only ever used parchment paper. So that's looking, like I said, not the prettiest, but it's gonna taste delicious when it's done. And now is where you take yourself over to the oven, put it up to 375. That was 377 for those watching. And preheat it. All right. When it hits 375, time to put that guy in. Okay, so the oven has heated up to 375 degrees. Now it's time to put on the old egg wash. All right. Break an egg into a small glass. A little bit on the parchment paper. I'm sure it's gonna smell delicious. And you put just a little bit of water. Splash of water in there, like that. Take a spoon. Small spoon. take a spoon and just mix that up, break that egg yolk up in there real good, so it's just like water and egg yolk. Just mix, 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 mix. And then you want to take your, something like a brush. If you have a paintbrush, you can use paper towel. If you don't have a paintbrush, I bought a paintbrush that I use just for this. It's gotta be clean, make sure there's no paint on it. And then you just coat your dough with that egg wash. This makes a big difference. It's gonna make it taste a lot better. It's also gonna make it look a lot better. This is the difference maker right here. And you just feel like Paul Hollywood when you do it in Gordon Ramsay or something like that. This is beautiful. This is the best loaf of bread anyone's ever going to eat. So, going a little light with it this time. You can go as light or as heavy as you like. Just remember, when it is cooking and you're looking in on it, this egg wash is gonna make it look like it's cooking faster than it is. The egg wash can be deceiving, so do not let that fool you. Now it's time for the last step before we put it in the oven, which is scoring. That means cutting. I do have a little tool for scoring, but I'm not gonna use it because I think you guys probably don't have that tool, so you can just use any sharp knife, the sharpest knife you have. All right, so on this one I'm gonna do 8 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now there's a whole bunch of reasons why you do this, but I don't need to tell you. It's just so the bread bakes right and the way you want it to, and it looks cool. So here you go. Ready? You just gotta be bold and not chicken shit about this. You just gotta go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I ended up going with 7 instead of 8 right there. This is, like I said, I use a lot of water. It's a little bit wetter than a loaf of bread, but now time to put it in the oven all right. So you want to put it in the oven for 45, 50 minutes, but check on it after 30 minutes, okay? So this is it, put it in the oven right now. See you guys when it's... So it's been 30 minutes. You want to check on it at 30 minutes. I just want to give it a little peek. It is looking nice in there. But like I said, the egg wash makes it look like it's done when it's not done. So I'm going to wait 15 more minutes and do 45. All right. It's been 45 minutes. It's time for the moment of truth. Oh, look at that sweet, sweet loaf of bread. Now, there's an easy way to tell the bread is done. You want to knock it. All right? Let me get the out here. My towel, you take the bottom. Sound hollow inside? Sounds pretty hollow to me. If it's hollow, that means your bread is good. Gotta let this cool down for at least 5-10 minutes before you tear into it. But holy smokes, is that smell delicious, and is it gonna taste delicious? Remember, it's still cooking a little bit, so let it settle 10 minutes before you rip into that thing, and then you'll be fine. I can't wait to eat this. Thank you for joining me today on Baking Bread with Will. I hope your quarantine's going well. Send me your pics and videos of your bread. Can't wait to see them. And I hope it tastes delicious. Hope it tastes delicious as this does. Thanks for everything, guys. I love you. Peace out.